And this is when you're exclusively trading in parking spots, right? This is reflected in the resale market. When we take two perfectly alike units. In today's video, what's more valuable for appreciation purposes in terms of condominiums in the GTA, Toronto, and downtown Toronto real estate market? Is it a second bedroom or is it a parking spot? We'll answer that today. Hello everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty. As always, you can find my contact information in the description box with regards to my Gmail, my Instagram, and my office. Feel free to get in touch with me if you have any questions with regards to this video, or generally speaking, any questions with regards to any matter in the real estate market. I would be happy to help you answer your questions. Lastly, feel free to subscribe, comment, rate, and review if you happen to enjoy these videos or my videos at large. Your support in that regard is much appreciated, but as always, you're not obliged to do so. Feel free not to like. If you did dislike this video, feel free to go ahead and dislike it. Anyways, let's get into the topic of today's video, which is answering a poll I put up on my channel. What do you believe to be more valuable with regards to appreciation for condominiums? A second additional bedroom, or I just said a second additional bedroom, but we're really thinking conceptually here as an additional bedroom, or a parking spot. Now we're assuming an either or situation, right? So it's either a parking spot or it's either a second bedroom, and which one is more valuable in terms of appreciation. So that's very key here too, because a lot of end users may not need a parking spot and they may prefer to bike to work. They are very close to transits. They walk to work. They work at home, even when everything was normal. So they may just opt for the second additional bedroom for more space. So that's understandable. It's not that common, but it's understandable. Point being, we're looking at it from an investor's perspective. And ultimately, yes, at the end of the day, all end users are investors as well, because naturally when you buy something, unless you're gonna never buy anything again for the rest of your life, which if that's the case, that's perfectly fine, you want to be able to sell what you bought for more, ideally more than the rest of the market, when you do choose to sell it, to move on up to a bigger house or even to downsize. Even if you're not purely an investor, but you want to look at things from an appreciation perspective, that makes perfect sense, and that's exactly what a lot of end users do. So looking at it from an appreciation lens only, which one is better if we only had to pick between one? Now let's look at the results of the poll. As you see, the majority of people opted to vote for the additional bedroom, and only 30 or some odd percent of people decided to vote for the parking spot. So what is the accurate answer here? And I'm afraid to say this, the accurate answer is that most of the people who voted on this poll were wrong, because what is actually more valuable between the two for appreciation purposes, we're going to break them down to resale, pre-con, and rental. On all three fronts, what's more valuable is the parking spot. Just earlier this year, I made a video going through the average costs and price of a parking spot. How much would a parking spot cost you in downtown Toronto? And that was putting the case much stronger because it's downtown Toronto. The further south you go, or the more central, the more parking is scarce. However, if we look at from North York to downtown, and the Richmond Hill, York region numbers are not that far off, but these numbers I'm giving you right now is just for the city of Toronto Central, from North York to downtown. The range you're looking at is on the very, very, very lucky side, $45,000, $50,000 to $90,000. Now, this is a wide range, and if you're paying closer to the 90 end of the range, you're overpaying for parking. However, in downtown, you're looking at 65, 70 minimum. And obviously, as I explained in that video, just like properties, parking spots come with their own feature that makes one parking spot better than another parking spot. Actually, just today, I was texting back and forth with a client of mine, And I said a P1 parking spot appreciates better than a P3 parking spot, and not that much. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be, marginally so. However, why is that the case? Well, think about it. When you have to access a P3 parking spot, it's more inconvenient. You have to go down furthermore and drive up, where if your parking is closer to the exit or the visitor parking, it's more convenient. Right? For all these reasons, putting aside the small differences here and there, parking, we can put the value at, once again, as I said, 45 to 50, upwards of 90K. And this is when you're exclusively trading in parking spots, right? This is reflected in the resale market. When we take two perfectly alike units in every major shape or form, layout, exposure, the number of bedrooms, number of washrooms, size of the bedrooms, furthermore, what else can we think of? Oh, okay, proximity to elevator, proximity to garbage chute, level, although that's, when you account for the level, that's a little bit more complicated. Obstructed view versus unobstructed view. Anything we can account for on paper, because when we go inside the unit, you never know. But the owner might have decided to, out of nowhere, replace the hardwood with carpet for some reason and then paint the walls pink. But anything we can account for on paper, when we look at two perfectly alike units, however, the only major difference is that one of them has parking and the other doesn't. This 45, 50 to 90K cost of parking is reflected on the middle end of the range into the purchase price and sold prices of these resale units that are perfectly alike, meaning the unit with the parking tends to go anywhere from 45 to 60K more than the one without parking. And assuming a non-bidding situation, it also is reflected in the asking price as well, assuming reasonable parties involved both on the buying and the selling side of things. When we look at what builders are charging you, when you're looking to purchase a pre-construction unit, part of a pre-construction project, a lot of times now builders are charging you additional for parking, and what they're charging you is actually close and sometimes at current market value prices for parking. Once again, 45K, 60K. That's what builders are charging. Lastly, look at the rental price of side of things. Not all investors buy and live in it or sell it immediately when it closes, or sell it 3 to 4 months after it closes. A lot of investors choose to rent their units, right? And parking is positively, once again, reflected when we compare to two units, one of them with parking, one of them without parking. Parking is positively reflected in terms of bringing the investor more return in terms of monthly rental income. Now, rents are a little bit more complicated than that, because as I always say, with rental scenarios, price is the important thing, but it's not the most important thing. Sometimes you agree to a little less for a more surefire tenant. Then in a lot of cases, a tenant can come along and offer you $5,000 for a unit that's only worth $2,500 a month, with no intentions of paying it, but you go through with it, and that's in the prices reflected, or rather in the entries of the data is reflected as $5,000 a month for that unit, right? So when we look at the rental market, admittedly, it's a little bit more complicated as what things ended up renting for. However, point being, once again, on average, the positive impact of a parking spot for a unit ranges for anywhere from $50 to $150 additional on a monthly basis for a unit. So meaning, units that have parking go anywhere from $50 to $150 more on a monthly basis. Now, as a commentator put underneath this poll very expertly, and exactly what I was going to discuss is that when we look at an additional second bedroom, as this commentator put, we're looking at basically the price per square feet in terms of the additional price per square feet we get. And that pales into comparison to what this additional money that a parking spot costs. Once again, in terms of resale market, in terms of selling and buying parking spots exclusively, just the parking spots detached from the actual condominium, and what builders are charging for it. Now let's go towards the builder side of things. When you look at a pre-construction project, the gap between the prices of a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom unit is far less than the cost to purchase a parking spot as part of your pre-construction purchase. That's just from the builder side of things. Now, if we go to the rental market, this is where things get the closest actually, where the additional sum return of a second bedroom is actually closer in the rental market to a parking spot. However, nonetheless, still, a parking spot on average brings you more in terms of monthly rental income than a second bedroom. Now, another commentator said the following, that the geographic location matters, and this is something I haven't addressed thus far in this video. As you can see, they hypothesize that if your condominium project is very close to transit, so subway, buses, then parking is less important. Whereas if your condominium is further out, for instance, it's in York region where it might be a 5 to 10 minute walk, the closest a bus stop because there's no subway transit system. In Richmond Hill, in Vaughan now there is, but you know, in outskirts of Vaughan and other areas of Richmond Hill and Markham, then in that scenario, a parking is more important. But if we're looking at the former, where it's right on top of a subway station, then the second bedroom would be more important. And actually, the numbers reflect the opposite, interestingly enough. And you may say, well, how is that so? Because if you're not close to subway, then parking is more important. As a result, shouldn't the cost of parking be more? Well, not so much, because in areas where there is no subway transit system, such as let's take Richmond Hill, where there's no subway yet, and there's a lot of condo projects that are very close to transit because there's a lot of condo projects right on Bathurst, right on Yonge. So those main arteries, obviously you just step out your condominium, a minute walk, and there's a bus stop there, and that's transit as well. But there's a lot of condominiums that it might be a 5 to 10 minute walk. For these condominium projects that are situated as such, usually parking is less scarce in these areas because it's less centralized, dealing with a bigger land mass, dealing with a bigger geographic area, and once again, everything is less saturated and concentrated and less centralized. So once again, when we look at the cost of parking in Richmond Hill, they still go for upwards of 45 to 50K, but they're worth less because land, in terms of parking land, is more ample as compared to more centralized areas such as the downtown core, where there is more public transit and more convenient access to such. However, land and parking area is far, far more scarce and far less ample. Lastly, to finish this video, all I have to say is the answer is parking. That's it. That's the correct answer. So if you have any further questions or any follow-up questions, feel free to get in touch with me. My contact information in the description box or comment under this video. Lastly, feel free to subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Your support in that regard is always much appreciated. However, as I always say, you're not obliged to do so. And stay safe. Thank you for watching.